My wife Jenna, 28 female, and I, 32 male, had our daughter Avalee a few months ago. We've been together for 10 years and married for 3. We both live out of state from our families and neither of us has the best relationship with them, though Jenna's family has made a lot of effort to come and visit, mend bridges and interact with Avalee since she was born. My family, mom 52, stepdad 55, 3 younger brothers nearly adults 21, live an extra few hours away and are yet to meet her. It's important to note that my mom and Jenna do not get along. Mom has always had something to say about Jenna, and the older Jenna's gotten and the longer it's gone on, the less Jenna has been willing to let it go over her head. This has resulted in us spending the last 10 years doing separate holiday visits. My plan this year was to drop Jenna at her parents' place safely after the flight, carry on the extra 3-hour drive with Avalee to mine, and then pick her up on December the 23rd so we could spend Christmas Day as a family. Unfortunately, Jenna's response was simply no. In our house, no is usually a complete sentence, but I asked her why and her response was, "We talked about this when I was pregnant. You never had my back with your mom, so I don't trust you to advocate for Avalee, and since she's made no effort to be around her, I'm not comfortable with letting you take our baby into that environment without me, and I'm not going to go somewhere it's evident I'm not wanted." I brought up the fact that I want my daughter to know my step-parents and her side of the family and that Jenna was stopping that from happening, and how unfair it was to my mom given that her parents have been there at least twice a month since she's been born and have been able to have that bonding time. I told her I would drop her off and take Avalee anyway, or Avalee and I would fly into my parents' home airport, but one way or another, she would be meeting them this Christmas. That is when Jenna just cracked and broke. She started bawling and repeating how she couldn't believe I'd put her in that position, and when I told this story to my best friend at the pub, he even raised his eyebrow and said that it wasn't a good move. Jenna has been sleeping on the couch, and I'm beginning to feel awful and second-guess everything. Am I the idiot or am I right in standing my ground here? My wife doesn't want our daughter to meet my family. I am insisting, wife is melting down. You are the idiot. Your wife is absolutely correct. She put up with your mom's idiocy for 10 years. 10 years where you obviously didn't have her back, or your mother would have shut up and figured out a way to coexist by now. Your wife is correct. You need to figure out a way to talk to your mom and say, now that my daughter is here, the rude comments and jerk behavior stop. Period. Also, an infant is still pretty reliant on her mother. Also, I can't believe your wife has been sleeping on the couch. You're lucky it hasn't been a hotel. If I was her, it wouldn't be the couch and it wouldn't be me. I'm honestly just shocked at the ignorance here. I can't believe OP doesn't realize his behavior and how completely messed up this situation is for his wife. You can't be serious. My God, you are the idiot. Jesus. Your wife is not keeping your daughter from meeting your parents. Your parents could have visited at any time in the past 6 months. Have you ever cared for or fed the baby by yourself? She's only an infant, and you don't mention how long you plan to separate the baby from her mother. Plus, an infant will not suddenly know your freaking family members. Are you planning on flying out every month, taking your daughter with you? Go ahead and get the divorce you're aiming for right now. Ask for summer custody, and then maybe your family can visit during that time now that Jenna won't be in the house. But of course, it's just as likely they won't bother to travel either. Your family has made no effort to mend the relationship, and you admit your mother in particular treats your wife terribly. This is why they shouldn't meet your daughter on their own. And why does your wife have to continue to look past this treatment? Why does your mother get to continue to speak badly about her? It's unfair to my mom that her parents have gotten to see baby. Your mom put herself in this position. You don't get to treat someone like crap for a decade, then surprise Pikachu face when they don't want their baby around you. If your mom wants to see the baby, she should try to make amends. At this point, it's clear they aren't going to be best friends, but she does have to treat your wife with cordial respect. I have a nearly adult daughter, Cass, with my ex, and a pre-tween son, Mark, with my wife. Cass lives with my ex and is long distance. Ex moved, and I only see her once every other month. Mark lives with my wife and me full time. I'll admit I struggle with guilt when it comes to Cass because of the distance, so when Cass wants something, I try to do all I can to make it happen. Cass is also extremely sensitive, so I have to handle her very carefully so as not to upset her. Mark, on the other hand, is more out there and will try to argue back, and I tend to be a bit harder on him because he's got a stronger personality. About a month ago, Cass called saying she broke her brand new iPhone I'd given her as an early birthday present and asked me to pay to get it fixed for her. Since I rarely have the opportunity to do stuff for Cass, I said yes, sent her the money, and reassured her that I'm not mad. It was an accident, but please be more careful with her devices. A week later, Mark broke the iPad he's had for over 2 years. Mark is rough on his stuff and a bit on the clumsy side. I told Mark it's his fault for not paying more attention, and it's going to be a while until his iPad is fixed and the money will come out of his allowance, and I hope it teaches him to be more responsible. Mark started arguing with me, and I grounded him for 2 weeks but only followed through on the first week. Now my wife is mad at me, saying the way I reacted to Mark was unfair compared to the way I responded to Cass, that I was forgiving and understanding to my daughter, who's older, but not my son, who's much younger. I tried to explain it as I don't see Cass much or get a chance to do as much for her, so anytime I can, I'm going to. I see and do stuff with Mark every day, so it's a different situation, and I handle each as needed. My wife still insists I dropped the ball on the way I dealt with Mark and said I should have treated him the same way I did Cass, and brought up the fact Cass broke her brand new iPhone only a month after getting it, while Mark had his iPad for over 2 years before anything went wrong. Edit. Cass's phone was broken when she asked a friend to toss it to her, and she accidentally dropped her phone while trying to catch it. Mark wore out the charge port on his iPad, possibly due to mishandling it. Mark also has motor skill delays. You are the idiot and a terrible father to both of your children. I feel so bad for Mark. He did nothing wrong. His iPad of 2 years had a normal wear and tear issue, and he was punished for it. As he gets older, he's going to feel the favoritism, and he's going to lash out more and more for it. You'll blame him even though it's your fault. If he's smart, he'll cut you off, and then you'll wonder why. And what's worse, your children will never really be able to be siblings. You've spoiled your daughter through your lack of parenting and created a monster who easily manipulates you. Your little son broke an iPad after 2 years of use and you punished him. Your wife is dead right about the double standard. Do you even like your son? Because when you describe Cass, there's already an apologetically sympathetic tone. Distance, guilt, sensitivity. If she needs money, you're ready to throw it to her. Then with Mark, you describe him as argumentative, stronger personality, and clumsy. The charging port on the iPad had an issue, so automatically you jump to blame him without thinking. Be real with yourself. Because of your guilt, you put Cass on a pedestal, and Mark can do no right because you see him every day, so his flaws are more apparent. This is going to drive huge wedges between Cass and Mark, if the distance already hasn't, and Mark and yourself. He can see your favoritism towards her. Be a better dad to Mark. He deserves an apology at the very least. Recently, I was at the local supermarket and I saw an old lady, probably about 70, parking in one of the expectant mother parking spaces. When she got out of the car, I was nearby and I just caught her eye, looked at her accusingly, and pointed at the sign. She looked embarrassed because, obviously, a 70-year-old isn't pregnant. To be clear, this supermarket has a bunch of these expectant mother parking spaces next to the handicapped ones. They're basically the second closest spots to the store and have a sign on it that says expectant mother parking and a picture of a stork carrying a baby on them. When I got home, I told my husband about how I'd seen her taking up one of those spaces, and he said I was in the wrong. He said an old lady should be able to use one of the expectant mother parking spaces even if she wasn't pregnant, because otherwise it could be a long walk for her, and there was always a bunch of them empty at the store anyway. But I think if she needs to walk less, she can probably just qualify for a handicap placard and should get one of those. Sorry, you are the idiot. You harassed someone's 70-year-old pensioner Gram, who was going to pick up her heart medication and supplies to possibly make her last Christmas pudding for the family Christmas. You are being a busybody and not minding your own business, to be honest. I mean, who goes far enough to shame an old lady? No one appointed you as the parking police. Disagree. The world needs more people like you, OP. We can't let these dangerous gangs of geriatrics take up parking spots willy-nilly. The entire world might devolve into lawlessness. Jeez, stop looking for things to be angry about. It's not your business. She wasn't breaking the law. She wasn't elbowing a 9-month pregnant lady out of the way to take the spot. It didn't harm you or apparently anyone else. A little bit of grace goes a long way. Parking in handicapped without a tag or placard? Screw those people, but you probably made an elderly lady feel like crap and it was unnecessary. I wish they called them for people who need a little extra help spaces. Truth. People are weirdly protective of them. I was 8 months pregnant and parked in one. Some self-appointed parking monitor walked up behind me, stating that I needed to move because that was only for expectant mothers or parents with small children. So I turned around. She stopped mid-rant. I then opened the back door and got out my toddler. She suddenly found somewhere else to be. My sister, 19, and I, 22 female, are not very close. I don't remember a time when she wasn't the sole focus of our parents' attention. She was diagnosed with a lung problem when she was born, and when she was 3 she developed a rare form of cancer. This meant our parents focused a lot on curing it, and they expected me to be on hand to entertain her, to keep her mind off of cancer, and to make sure she felt loved. Sometimes my parents scolded me for watching TV while she was sick because how could I take my focus off of her? She would try to get the attention of everyone after a while. When we were kids, we were left out of a couple of family weddings because the bride and groom didn't want her and my parents making her the center of attention on the day. They already did that to my mom's sister. On her wedding day, my sister puked that morning and my parents decided to tell the whole family beforehand because we'd be late. Then they showed up at the church and Mom went to the front with my sister and announced to everyone that my sister was okay. My aunt was so mad at her for that. She then had my sister go up to them when they exchanged vows and kissed them. My aunt stopped talking to my mom after that crap show. My sister is used to telling everyone she knows she had cancer, that she's got bad lungs still, and that she's probably going to need more surgeries in the future because her liver or kidneys were harmed by her cancer treatments. I admit to resenting the attention she gets. When I was 17, she asked me why I never paid the same kind of attention that our parents do, and I told her that she's not the only kid I know who survived cancer, because in the real world, people aren't taking their focus off everything to focus on her or any other cancer survivor. I told her it was rude to bring it up when someone else was celebrating or focusing on something. She asked me how it could be rude when people never tell her to stop. I told her people told Mom and Dad to stop, but they just didn't listen, and because she was a kid, they wouldn't say it directly to her. So I kind of walked away from my family after I moved out. My sister reached out to me recently though and wanted us to catch up. I was open to it, but once she got there, she started telling everyone about her cancer. She asked me to take days off work to spend with her because of cancer and bored. My girlfriend was over, bugged her for hours while I was at work, and then called to complain that my girlfriend wouldn't entertain her. When I got home that night, I told her if she wanted to be the center of attention that she needed to go to our parents because she won't get that anywhere else. She told me I was mean and I just resented her and it wasn't fair. Am I the idiot for what I said? Not the idiot. It's sad that your sister suffers so much, but you're also a human being and deserve to live your own life and receive your own attention. You aren't obligated to treat her the way your parents did, and your parents should have treated you better. Your parents hurt their children a lot. First, they hurt you by ignoring you. They hurt your sister by turning her into a self-centered brat who really thinks she's the center of the universe because that is what she'd been taught. Sister is what your parents made her. She won't change. You will be happier if you keep your association with her to a minimum and never invite her to visit again. Agreed. She's going to milk that cancer cow as long as she can. Sister called to complain to me that my girlfriend wouldn't entertain her. Holy crap. What 19-year-old needs to be entertained? Get a book, open an app and play games. Your sister's behavior will push many people away. It's good she starts realizing that now. The sooner the better. I, 22, am in college. I live in a rental apartment with my roommate, Simon, 28, and his preschool-aged son. The mother of the child is deceased and he got together with his now-girlfriend but broke up 4 months ago. He was expecting a baby with her, and the baby was born this past Wednesday. I was in the middle of studying and preparing for my exam when Simon barged in, telling me his ex-girlfriend's mom had just called him and said she was in labour and he had to go to the hospital. He started begging me to take his son for a few hours, probably till midnight, so he could be there for his baby's birth. I declined and said I had so little time left and needed to focus on studying. He begged, saying that I wouldn't even feel his son's presence, but the kid is so hyperactive and hard to deal with, basically. He He started raising his voice at me, saying I was being mean for no reason and that he had no one he knew who could take his son. I told him he could have prepared for this by hiring a babysitter. He started going off, saying that I was being unhelpful on purpose. I told him to get out of my room. He said he'd just leave the kid with me then. I told him I'd call the cops as soon as he did that, which made him back off. He was fuming. He took his son and left and came back the next day telling me I'd just caused him to miss the birth of his baby and that he'll never forgive me for what I've done. He's been avoiding me since it happened. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. If he'd asked you in advance or his babysitter dropped out, that would be different. The fact that he knew the baby would arrive at some point and didn't make any arrangements makes him the idiot for springing it on you. What would he have done if you weren't home? Was that his plan all along? To just drop the child on you? Crazy. You don't know when a person is going into labour and you can't exactly book a babysitter for on-call. I'm very disturbed by people who refuse to help others in emergencies. It's really disturbing to see and demonstrates the strong lack of community and care for others in society. Not even in society, but people in your actual community, in your actual home. It's not your fault, but you could have helped. You're well within your rights to say no, and you're not the worst person, but this is a solid idiot move. You better not even ask him for a cup of sugar moving forward. Good grief, where is people's compassion nowadays? You say that, but where's the compassion for OP and their life course? They didn't decide to have 2 kids. They didn't choose for a man 6 years their senior to be vastly unprepared for the arrival of his second child. He's had one before. OP didn't cause Simon to miss anything. He caused it himself. Where is any of the parents' parents? Do they not have any other family at all? No other friends? No one? Be fair though, his son's mother died, so he's a widowed dad, which of course would make finances tight, and later got a girlfriend. None of that points to him being some kind of social outcast or player. Maybe he's far from family. He definitely needed to make a plan for the baby's birth, but nothing in his circumstances suggests the kind of judgment you're making of him.